The video game industry is under attack once more, so let's get into it a little. Welcome to the newest episode of SDW.
Super Dario World!
It's a me,
Dario!
Woohoo! Let's go!
Alright, so I'm going to keep this one a little short because I don't think it's that much fun. But before I get into it, let me just give you a quick reminder that you can find the podcast in the iHeartRadio app. Just type in The Show Presents Super Dario World, or you can find it on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube as Super Dario World Podcast. Now, I still don't know if I'm going to continue SoundCloud, so keep reaching out. Let me know. I haven't heard from anybody who listens on SoundCloud yet that would hate to lose it, so I think I'm probably going to get rid of that one soon. I don't know. It's a decision I'll make later on this week. But let's get into the topic first. Video games. Now, if for those of you who've been listening for a while, you might remember that I did an episode. It was episode 34 on gaming disorder, where where a psychological association from the UN classified video gaming as a disorder. So it's kind of a complicated one. That's actually it's a longer video. I think it's about 30. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Almost 36 minutes. So in there, I go a little bit more in depth into what that means and what they were trying to do. But what I want to get into, not necessarily about it being a disorder, which I don't think it is, and I think I defended quite fairly in that video if you want to check it out. Again, episode 34. What I wanted to go, I had a theory there, and that's that the government is trying to crack down on video games. So this is all just one step. It's a step leading into the regulation of the industry, because it's a big industry. And you're going to hear a lot of, I heard a certain politician say that, video games, the industry makes more money than the film, TV, and music industry combined, which is true. It's a big industry. People love video games, and it's not a cheap industry. You put a lot of money into it, so having a game is not cheap. And there's also microtransactions and all that stuff. I've complained about it being so expensive multiple times before. And anyway, my theory is that this making it video games a gaming disorder is the first step towards regulating it in a way, kind of like you regulate alcohol or tobacco. Because if it's an addiction, then you have to regulate it, right? Because what happens to alcohol? It's addictive. Well, children can't have it, and you need a permit to make it, and you need an ID, and you need a whole bunch of stuff. And so all that regulation makes the prices go up, so it screws us over, and you need a permit if you're going to produce something that is regulated, so that way they get a bigger piece of the pie. So to me, it was all just a big government cash grab, right? That was my theory back then. However, right now, it's a different thing. Now, if any of you have listened to the news at all over the last few days, you heard about the shootings that happened. There were 3 shootings. Ohio, Texas, and Chicago. Nobody cares about the one in Chicago because there's a shooting in Chicago every weekend. And that's not me being facetious. That's just the truth. You're not going to hear about that one in the news. Most people just only hear about the first 2 because literally nobody cares about shootings in Chicago. It's a really sad thing, but it's true. And also, I think it was because it was a gang thing. So, I mean, it was a different style of shooting. So, because that one actually you can kind of make a little bit of sense of it. You can make a little bit of sense of gangs shooting at each other. It's still a tragedy, but I don't know. I guess the other ones kind of affects us in a different way, and you're kind of trying to go into why. You're trying to find a why of the things. I think it's a very human thing to try to understand the psychology of how a person or why a person would do this. And so for decades, they've been trying to, blame video games. People have been trying to blame video games because they make people violent. Video games make people violent. It's one of the causes for violence, and this has been going. It's an argument that had been used for decades. I think all the way back since video games were created, it was a concern. And I remember after the Columbine shootings, they were blaming video games. Then after the Virginia Tech one, then after the Virginia Tech one, I remember particularly well. That's when I kind of started paying attention to a whole bunch of other stuff. So I remember that one particularly well. And so anyway, the point is, it's always been a talking point. It used to be a talking point from both sides of the aisle, from both parties. Now it seems to be kind of just one-sided. And from what I understand, And I don't want to get too deep into the shooting stuff. I don't want to get too deep into all the political stuff, but I kind of want to get into what I think it means. Because this is all leading up to something. And I don't like the end game that I'm seeing because it affects me personally. So, all right. So let me break it down. Right now, President Trump and I believe it was the Secretary Governor of Texas, they're blaming video games. They're saying video games are responsible for all these shootings. And the reason why they're probably doing it is because they need a patsy. So instead of, while the left is saying guns are responsible, the right's saying, no, it's not guns, it's video games. And so they all have their own political motivations for doing it. Neither, they're both very happy to use video games. I remember, like I said, the first time I've heard about anybody complaining about video games came from the left. It was Hillary Clinton that said that it was an industry of sin. And I remember that very vividly. And this is, I had to look it up, but this is a quote that she said: "We need to treat violent video games the way we treat tobacco, alcohol, and pornography." Now, I don't know if the theory that I developed came from me reading that all the way back in 2007 and that just kind of sinking in, or if, because I don't remember that side. To me, I don't remember having read that anywhere. I remember the industry of sin very perfectly. I remember that very vividly. I did not remember the other part, but honestly, it doesn't matter. The point is, they want to regulate it. At least that's my theory. They just want to get a bigger piece of that pie, right? That's my theory. It's all about money. However, in this situation now, one is trying to be like, no, don't blame guns, it's video games. The other one, it's like, no, it's guns. So it's in the middle of a fight. And however, I haven't heard anybody really step up and defend it and say, no, it's not that. So it's kind of a complicated situation, and to get the gun thing out of the way, because I know it's a complicated subject, a lot of people feel about different ways. From what I've read in the data, countries that have banned guns, gun crimes go down. However, violent crimes go up, which makes sense logically. I mean, right now, if you have a wolf preying on sheep and some of those sheep might have guns, it makes the wolf more tentative. However, if you take the guns away from the sheep, the wolves become bolder. So it's a weird thing because, or let's say for example, in the UK they banned guns. However, knife crimes went up, and now knives have to be banned in the UK. It's a really weird situation. So you win some, you lose some. What do you want? What do you prefer? I guess. Would you rather have less gun crimes, or would you rather have less violent crimes? Again, pick your poison. I just know that if you put me in the middle, if I'm standing in the middle of a mass shooting, I'd feel better if I had a gun. I would. I can't imagine somebody else who would not feel better in that situation. And to put yourself in the middle of that situation, put yourself, if you're about to be, somebody's trying to rob you or anything, you'd feel better with a gun. And also, a point that to me has always been ridiculous, criminals don't care about laws. Like, by definition, criminals don't care about the laws. They break the law. So if I'm a criminal and guns are illegal, that's not going to stop me from getting a gun and using it because I don't care about laws. I am a criminal. It's only the good people who follow the laws who are affected by this. So pros and cons, it's a debate that you can have. To me, the thing that I want to focus on here now, because the other ones is endless, and I'm not sure where I land. Because, like I said, I think they're cool, but I don't own any. Partly because they're expensive, but also because I have this thing about, well, what if I leave it at home and then somebody steals it and then there's a criminal in my area with a gun? I'm kind of paranoid. So there's a lot of stuff there, and I'm not exactly sure exactly where I land so far on that on that thing. I know where I land. I know exactly where I land on the other one, and that's the one that I want to focus on because I actually have something that I am passionate about. Now, as I mentioned on the previous podcast where I talk about video games being a mental disorder, this is completely and 100% bullshit. Blaming video games for people being violent is beyond stupid. It's reprehensively stupid. And it's both sides trying to use it as a patsy is very concerning to me, because the situation that I've been worrying about seems like it's getting closer and closer, because they're using it as a talking point that they're going to keep using over and over, and then it's going to be an excuse. And what they want to create is public pressure, or plus an excuse to, like an excuse to move their certain political agenda. And it's going to crack down on that industry, which is going to bring prices up, which is going to affect the consumers, which is me. It's also going to affect, let's say if they start regulating, you can't show this anymore. Or, you know how on your phone they switch the gun emoji for like a water gun? Imagine now Call of Duty is like with water guns and stuff like that. So, some people like Splatoon, but they like it for very different reasons than people like Call of Duty. So, here's the conclusion that I got from last time. Video games, there are violent people, there are damaged people out there in the world. There are crazy people in the world. The problem is not that crazy people play video games, or the problem is not that video games make people crazy. The problem is that people are crazy. Sometimes people are damaged and they need help. However, it's not always easy to identify when it is, because sometimes people need to reach a breaking point. Sometimes people are fine until they reach a point in their life that something breaks them, whether it be losing losing a loved one, losing your job. I don't know. I've never been in that situation. I can imagine, but usually the studies have shown that these people might be normal until they reach a breaking point. Have any of you ever heard of the TV show Snapped, where they basically follow along women? They don't follow them along, but they show their stories of how one moment they just snapped and killed their husbands or their kids. This happens to people. People are crazy. Now, it doesn't matter if you play video games or not if you're crazy, all right? Now, there's a lot of people that have certain conditions that, for example, autism and all that stuff, and I heard the argument being made that, maybe autistic kids should not be playing video games because if they're obsessed with shooting people, blah, blah, it affects their brains. That's a really disgusting thing to say, because you're saying that, all autistic kids have eggshell skulls, that if you show them something violent, they'll become violent? That's not true. There's different forms of autism. It affects people differently. Some people have different things that are wrong with them. Some people, they might be overly calm, overly passive, and we've seen examples of that. People who just take it, who just cluster down, they shut down, and the only way that they actually feel comfortable exploring the world or coming, not exactly coming out of their skin, but coming out of their shell. There you go, coming out of their shell is through video games. It gives us an outlet. For example, there's no Pokemon in the real world, so the only place I can go and play and catch Pokemon and train them and have fights with my friends or whatever, or become the best Pokemon master of them all, is through video games. There's no medieval wars going on anymore, so the only place where I can go and actually experience what it would be like to be a general in that era, or be a soldier in that era, and actually duke it out and stuff, to get all that out. It's an outlet. Most people use it as an outlet. It's an outlet for stress. It's an outlet for fantasy. It's an outlet for a whole bunch of stuff. And usually, once you do it there, you don't want to do it somewhere else. Like, for example, okay. For example, I was going to go a little bit too far, but I'll keep it closer at home. Let's say my theory is that most people want to play games because it makes them feel, let's say, powerful or like a hero. When you're the soldier out there shooting terrorists in Afghanistan, you feel like, all right, I'm the good guy, I'm saving people. Also, you feel powerful. So we enjoy that feeling of power. Humans don't like feeling weak unless that's your kink. But you want to feel powerful. You want to feel like you have a skill. You want to feel, son of a stupid computer. You want to feel like you have a certain set of skill. You want to feel useful. And video games gives you an outlet to do it in a different way that you couldn't do it in real life. Why we know we couldn't do it in real life? Because we are reasonable human beings. We know that it's not okay to go grab a gun and go to Afghanistan and shoot people unless you are in the army and you are ordered to do so. We know it's not okay for us to go pick up a hooker and bang her and then kill her to get your money back, which is what a lot of people do in GTA. We know that's not right. However, it's funny to do it in a video game because here's a fun fact. They're not real. And we kind of know they're not real. And it's funny to, like pretend like they're actually real people. But we know they're not fucking real. Okay? These are fake beings. They're not real. They don't have feelings. They don't have emotions. They don't have stories. They don't have parents. They don't have anything. Nothing. They are not real. And anybody who plays a video game, well, not anybody, but most reasonable people who play video games like them because they are not real. It is fake. Even people who play The Sims, which you're kind of pretending to have a life, it's not your life. It is not your life, okay? It's fake, and we know it. It just gives you an opportunity to test things out. It does, and it's fun. All right, some things are kind of fucked up. However, I think most people who do fucked up things in video games, they kind of do it for a laugh or to just feel powerful. Honestly, the biggest thing that I've noticed, like for example, some dude who's playing Madden with his friends and beats the other guy. He starts like flexing like, oh yeah, I got you, blah, blah, suck on that. And he didn't really do anything. He's not a real NFL player. He's not actually going out there. But he could beat his friend in a fucking video game. It required a certain amount of skill. It required a certain amount of talent. Anyway, so my point here is it's ridiculous that they're trying to blame an industry for something that a few individuals do. How many people in the world play video games? How many people? How many different video games are out there? Thousands? Millions? And just because one damaged human being happened to play one of those games, you're trying to blame the entire industry? Is that how this works? There's a lot of games out there that aren't harmful at all. None. Like again, like let's say fucking Candy Crush. And I've never played Candy Crush, but you're telling me that Candy Crush can lead you to mass shooting? I don't think so. Now, if you find evidence, and I mean evidence, that a particular game, an individual game, can lead to violence, then we can start having a conversation. So far, there has been nada, zero, anything linking any particular game to violence that I can think of. Now, there might be people who cite games, and there might be people who are crazy, like, oh yeah, well, I really like this. Guess what? Video games are popular. As I mentioned earlier before, video games make more money. The video game industry makes more money than Hollywood. It makes more money than TV. It makes more money than the music industry combined. So if something is that big and something is that popular, the odds of a crazy person being a part of that, enjoying it, are pretty high. So let's say, for example, the highest. What is the biggest franchise in America? Let's say the biggest fast food franchise, McDonald's. All right, the odds of one of those crazy people eating McDonald's are a lot higher than those eating Jack in the Box. Why? Because Jack in the Box is regional. Freaking McDonald's. Is it regional? I don't know if there's Jack in the Box on the East Coast, but I don't think there is. Anyway. And but McDonald's is everywhere, literally everywhere in the fucking world. If something is that big and it's everywhere, of course there's going to be crazy people that are into it. Some things are popular because they're cool, right? Even crazy people can enjoy cool things. Doesn't mean that they make them crazy. Now, if you're already crazy or there's something already wrong with you, I can understand your argument because you may learn some stuff. However, you learn a lot from TV. You learn a lot from music, from movies. You learn a lot from the fucking internet. So, to me, it's just not an honest attack. There's a lot of things that you could criticize the video game industry for. I do. Mainly that it's so expensive and that they sell unfinished games and that they want to make you do microtransactions and all that stuff and they're a whole bunch of greedy a-holes. I understand those. To me, those feel valid. But this one, that it makes people violent, is unfair. I don't want to say just unfair. That's not the word that I'm looking for. It's ridiculous. Okay? And it's politically motivated, and it's disgusting because you're trying to alienate, you're trying to lump in a whole bunch of people unfairly. For example, because I play video games. Right now, you've directly associated me with mass murderers. Okay? So what's the next thing? What? People who play video games can't buy guns? Is that going to be a thing? People who play video games, but well, if I ever end up having a custody hearing for my kids, is that something that's going to be able to use? Like, this guy plays video games. He could be violent. He plays violent video games. He could be violent. There's real consequences to regulating things this way. Real world consequences. It's really bad. And I know, I'm going to the end. I'm jumping all the way to the end, and it sounds ridiculous here, but it's a step in that direction. So far, they've taken little ones. They're just trying to throw that out there. Now, they made it a disorder. As I mentioned before, if you're in a custody hearing, it'll be brought up. If you're trying to, again, buy a weapon, it will be brought up. There's many ways that this could be brought up, and it is very troubling for me. I do not want to be associated with that in any way because I've never done anything wrong. Or at least, okay, okay, I went a little bit too far. I've done some wrong stuff. I've never done anything violent in that way. Okay, I've never actually been in a fight. Well, I've been in fights, in tournaments and stuff because I did judo and karate and all that stuff. But I never actually been in a street fight, which is really weird because I've had a lot of people want me to punch me in the face. What I do, I use my words to get out of it. I also played football, which you could argue is violent, but you follow the rules. Because I'm a reasonable person who follows the rules of society. Society says you're not supposed to be violent with other people. Because I don't want you to be violent with me. I'm not going to be violent with you. So, and I play video games my entire life. I prefer the violent ones. They're way more fun. It's a fun outlet. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. Judge me for me. Don't lump me in with other people. I'm an individual. Okay? And if you're saying that what you're saying is that, oh, yeah, we're so weak-minded that a video game is going to affect us negatively. We are okay. I'm trying to use. When I say we, I mean reasonable people. At least I consider myself to be reasonable, even though I'm a little bit paranoid. I consider myself reasonable people. Reasonable people who've played video games all their life, are living proof that this theory is stupid. It's stupid. You're insulting us. You're slandering us, and you're trying to make our hobby seem something evil. Like you're lumping us with evil, broken people, and that's something that really it grinds my gears in many, many ways because you're not honest about it. You're basing it yourself on old ideas, fear. You're fearing something that you don't know or you don't understand or you don't even want to. You don't want to even give it a shot. So, anyway, I think I ranted long enough. Point is, it's honestly, it's disgusting to see anybody try to use a tragedy to further their own political agenda. I hate it. I think it's gross. It's wrong to slander people this way. It's especially people who've done nothing wrong. Reasonable people who've done nothing wrong, who are just enjoying a product. It's a harmless product, by the way, as far as all studies have shown, and as far as every single person I've ever met in my life who play video games. It's a fucking community, all right? It's something that actually brings people together. There's online communities of it. Are there damaged people? Yes. There are damaged people everywhere. Everywhere. It's not a common denominator. It's not a thing, and I think it's gross that they're trying to just make its patsy. It's just gross. And to me, it's all just because of greed. Because they want to regulate it, because they want to get more money in their pockets, and because they don't want to address the real issues. So, it's just gross. It's just gross. So that's it. Sorry. It went a little bit longer than I thought. 24. Damn it. But that's it for today. Let me know what you think of this one. We'll see how it goes. As always, you can find me at Dario the Show on Instagram. Any comments, questions, suggestions, you can reach out right there. I really want to know your thoughts on this, because I don't think I'm alone. You know what? I'm going to say that I'm pretty sure that I'm not alone here. I'm pretty sure that most people who play video games agree with a lot of my positions on it. but I'd like to know. So, yeah, please reach out. Let me know what you think. And as always, thank you for listening, and I'll see you again tomorrow.